Oh, what's going on, guys, gals, non binary pals? Artisan Kane here with another TPL Season 2 Team Build Preview. This week we're playing my good friend Mario, the coach of the College Station Good Bull. As some of you know, I've known Mario for several years. I think since like 2011, so like 9 years. We've been good friends when we met at college in College Station, actually at Texas A&M. So we've played against each other a lot, especially competitively, from showdown to now here in the league. I think this is the third time that we've battled each other in the league, and it's definitely been some fun matches. So we definitely wanna make sure to bring some cool stuff, but also kind of get back to basics a little bit here, and make sure we bring our best stuff when we play Mario here this week. So just a quick recap. We just had our bye week. We had our week 5 and week 4 games kind of close together, so I had basically almost like 2 full weeks off of competitive mons, which is good and bad. Bad because a little bit of boredom set in because I'm just watching all these other guys and gals play, but good because I had a little bit of time to reflect and kind of think about what I want to do with the team, where I can do better. And I think a lot of it came down to overthinking some things. And when you have a team like I do, there's a lot that you really don't have to overthink, to be honest. So, we just got to get back to basics, think about the 3 pillars, figure out, in every matchup, okay, what can I bring that he can't defend against? What does he have that is a big problem against me? That kind of stuff. So as we're doing that, we're going to start talking about Mario's team here. So Mario had a really strong draft, and taking over some mons that he brought over from last season. So he's got Clefable, Hippowdon, Scizor, Sharpedo, Starmie, Toxtricity, and Reboot. So a couple of notable things here right off the bat. Clefable and Hippo are 2 of the premier walls, especially on like the ODU ladder, for example, on Showdown. But there's a reason for that. Hippowdon has extremely high HP and defense stats. While its special defense isn't great, it also has a really high attack stat. So it can hit really hard with those stab earthquakes and whatnot. Also with the Sandstream, it can bring around the Sandstorm. So you have that passive damage of the weather. Clefable is a big problem because Clefable is just so unpredictable. There's so many different sets you can run on Clefable, whether it's a super defensive set where you are either Magic Guard or Unaware, and you can also run a bunch of offensive stuff like Magic Guard with a Life Orb. I know early Gen 8 meta there was a lot of Life Orb Clefable sets with the Moonblast and Flamethrower, things like that. But Clefable can also be a cleric, wish passing and stuff like that. So there's just so much that mon can do that it is one of the best mons, and it has been since Gen 1. Now, as we go on to the rest of his team, we also see some big threats. So 2 big physical threats in Scizor and Sharpedo. Sharpedo having that speed boost ability. That can be a problem. Generally, it'll have either like a band or maybe a focus sash, so it doesn't risk getting O-code, and it can make sure it gets at least that 1 speed boost off. Scizor with Technician, it has access to some priority moves, like so now we have a Stab, Bullet Punch that is boosted by Technician, things like that, and it can really hit really hard with a base 130 attack stat. Next, we've got Starmie and Toxtricity. Those are some really hard-hitting special attackers. A Starmie is extremely fast at 115 base speed, and it can also hit like a truck. It's another good user of choice specs or choice scarf, depending on what he wants to run. Toxtricity can do some cool things as far as like a shift gear set. I actually had Toxtricity a while back in this league, and there's a lot you can do with it. Obviously, being 4 times weak to anything, and this one being 4 times weak to ground isn't great. But when you do things like the shift gear or even a specs boom burst type set, there's really not many things that can take it. And then finally we have Reboot. Reboot's really cool because it's got that liberal ability now. Even though it's not Cinderace, it can still hit like a truck. Whether scarfed or banded, that liberal boost of giving everything stab coverage is really, really cool. So just some quick details here, like hazard control stuff. He's got a couple of rockers. Starmie has spin. And then Scizor can be a defog set if he's running a defensive set. So that's something to consider. Also, the priority stuff, like I mentioned, Scizor having the stab bullet punch. It also has access to vacuum wave and quick attack for more coverage. And Sharpedo actually has Aqua Jet too, though I think it'll most likely just have like a liquidation and crunch type things for the primary stab coverages. And then Reboot also has access to like Sucker Punch, so then we get the Libero. Sucker Punch can do a lot for revenge killing mons that are a little bit weaker. So after going through his sets there, or what I think he might bring, we're gonna go into my team. So one quick note: this season, we have had Wobbuffet as our 7th slot, and what we decided to do was drop Wobbuffet. I really love Wobbuffet with the Shadow Tag ability. I personally think that Shadow Tag is broken in the singles format, especially in draft, because it's just so difficult to deal with. However, Wobbuffet is just way too passive. It's really annoying to try to actually use in game, and when the opponents have seen that I haven't brought it the last 5-6 weeks now, so it's going to be really obvious that I'm not going to really consider bringing it. So what we did is we dropped Wobbuffet and we picked up Malamar. Now with that change happening before this game, I really wasn't considering actually using Malamar in this matchup. I just kind of wanted to have it there, that way Mario had to prepare for it. In a format that allows for Dynamax, I really don't care for Malamar much. I think there are some cool things it can do as far as the contrary superpower type sets. But I didn't really see getting much out of it in this matchup, so I didn't bother bringing it. So I'm bringing the same 6 we've brought for the past 5 weeks, and we're going to start off with Arcanine. So Sylvain, our Arcanine, we're rocking heavy duty boots, primarily because he does have 2 stealth rockers in Hippo and Clefable. We're running max attack, max speed, Jolly, with Intimidate. Intimidate can be pretty cool with the heavy hitters of Scizor and Sharpedo. Obviously, Sharpedo's not really something we want to be switching into. He can double around Arcanine pretty easily, to be honest, once that Intimidate goes off, with mons like Reboot and stuff. But it'll be interesting to see what Arcanine can do here. I am not really bringing a mon that's physically defensive this week, which could come back to haunt me in all honesty. But I didn't want to bring defensive Arcanine again. I don't like bringing too much of the same stuff over and over and getting too predictable. And I think the first 4 weeks of the season, that's what I brought. And then last week I brought a banded set. So I think going a little bit more offense on Arcanine will be cool. We're running the extreme speed. Again, that's for chip damage. Close combat can be cool for mons like Sharpedo. Before it gets a speed boost, we can get some big damage off. Morning Sun for some recovery if we think we're forcing a switch, that kind of thing. And then a stab Flare Blitz. Next up, we got Ignatz, the Vanillux. We're running Never Melt Ice. That's to give us a little bit more firepower without the drawbacks of the Life Orb and without the drawbacks of Choice Specs. I love Choice Specs and Choice Scarf on Vanillux. However, in a set like we're bringing, it's really important to have the freedom to switch up moves. So we're running a very, very heavily invested special attack, heavily invested speed Vanillux with Blizzard, Veil, Protect, and Freeze Dry. Freeze Dry is kind of for Starmie. I'm pretty worried about Starmie, to be honest. And I might have overdone it on the special defense on some of these mons. But anyways, I've got Protect here on this set. I generally don't bring Protect in singles. I think it'll be interesting here to see what mons he might have that are sashed, or that we might have enough chip damage on that the hail can actually come into play. So the Protect is there so we can have a little bit of longevity. We can be able to live that extra turn while the opponent is taking that chip damage. Especially with a mon like Sharpedo, that it has that speed boost and that focus sash. It's going to want to have a sash. That way it can make sure it's getting that speed boost no matter what. So that hail damage is really important to be able to knock it out even after the speed boost has gone through, because it won't matter. And then Veil will be cool if we can get it off. But he does have some really strong mons to deal with Vanillux. I love Ice, but all those weaknesses make it really tough to use, especially when he's got mons like Scizor and Raboot and stuff. So next up, we've got Lorenz, the Tentacruel. So we're running an AV set, max HP, a decent chunk of Spadef, and then a little bit of speed. A little bit of speed is to make sure that after one rapid spin, we're in a good position to do some damage. Knock off Poison Jab and then Scald. I was considering running Waterfall, but if he does bring Hippowdon, Waterfall, even though it's super effective, really doesn't do too much to it because it's generally physically defensive mon. So we want to have it changed up a little bit, have Scald on there. That way we're not just a one-trick pony. Knockoffs can be really cool after that rapid spin goes off, because we'll be doing, having that crippling effect of knocking off the items while being a lot faster than his mons. So I think that's a pretty cool Tentacruel set with rapid spin this gen, giving you that speed boost. I think AV is pretty cool. Again, we're not running too much physical defense, so Tentacruel can't come in on too many things, but we did make this set with mons like Starmie in mind. Next mon is Hilda the Dracovish, standard Choice Scarf set, Vicious Rend, Leech Life, Psychic Fang, and Crunch. We probably want to lead Dracovish here, and that's just because I want to see how he responds to that. We want to put offensive pressure right off the bat. That way we can kind of figure out, okay, how does he plan on dealing with Dracovish? Now, I realize having a mon like Dracovish on my team and the others preparing to fight against me, in preparing for that battle, they see that mon and they have to figure out how they're going to deal with it. So right off the bat, if we send Dracovish out first, we can see how he either switches into it or, tries to set up in front of it, to see what he wants to do as soon as he sees that offensive pressure right off the bat. Looking at his team, there's not many things that can take a Vicious Rend well. Even a max physically defensive Clefable is not going to be in a position to take more than two of those. Clefable has only a 73 base defense stat. He doesn't have a lot of bulk on his team. As a matter of fact, I think Scizor is the only one that takes it decently well, and it's still doing like 70 to 80%, depending on the EV spread of that Scizor. So that'll be, important to keep in mind as, Scizor really can't do anything to us. So we can just knock off a Fish's Rend and do some big chunk damage. Dracovish is also important in the late game because once we get some of these threats out of the way, Dracovish can just come in and clean up, especially since he's scarfed. It's going to be important to see what item information we can get from him, depending on how the speed tiers start working out. If I can figure out which mon is scarfed and what's not scarfed, I can figure out, okay, Dracovish can come in on this easily, or this could be a speed tie or whatnot. What can Dracovish outpace? For example, if he's got Starmie with Dazzling Gleam on it or something and it's Choice Scarfed, it's not going to be great for us to switch in on, especially if it's like analytic boosted and stuff. You don't want to switch in on something like that. So, it is important to keep Dracovish in for the late game for that. Next, we've got Dorothea, the Primarina. So I'm running a pretty interesting set this week. I talked to my buddy Dan about it, Lamar Smaxon, as y'all might know him, regarding a Blunder Policy set. I don't remember where I saw it. I know I was thinking of using it when I had Orbeetle last season, a Blunder Policy Hypnosis set. And I think Blunder Policy Sing is really cool. If we can get a Sing off and it actually hits, then we have a sleep mon in front of us, which is great. Excuse me. Or we miss and then we get that +2 speed. Getting that +2 speed is huge because we are max special attack and modest. That way our Moonblasts are hitting extremely hard. I'm running Scald just because I'm a coward and I don't want to run Hydro Pump, to be honest. And I'm afraid of missing. I don't want to have that happen. And then we're running Energy Ball for coverage. If we get in on something like a Starmie, it's not going to be able to take more than one Energy Ball, depending on its set. And I think a regular like Choice Specs Starmie, we're still gonna outspeed at that +2, and Energy Ball is gonna do like 80 to 90%, something like that, if I remember the calc correctly. And then we do have a decent chunk of special defense on there to help us survive some of those other mons. His physical hitters like the Hippo and Reboot, Sharpedo, they really can't do much to Primarina as far as their move pool. So it'll be, besides Reboot using like a Gunk Shot or something like that, Dorothea can kind of comfortably get that Sing off, and once you're at +2, we've got enough coverage moves to do a decent chunk of damage to his entire team. And finally, we've got Shamir, the Hydreigon. We're running a Life Orb set, Nasty Plot. I was considering for a while running sub Nasty Plot, but when I thought about it, he's got some moves that can go through the sub, so it really doesn't make too much sense to be invested in that. If he's running like a Choice Specs, Boom Burst, Toxtricity, for example, it's not going to matter if we're behind a sub. If I'm not mistaken, all sound moves go through sub, so we don't want to be in a position where we're taking that huge amount of damage. So we're running Nasty Plot, Dark Pulse, Flash Cannon, Draco. So we got our dual stab and then Flash Cannon for some more coverage on things like Clefable. And, this is a good potential Dynamax mod. After +2, we're doing work to his entire team outside of... And then we're outspeeding most things outside of like Starmie or anything that might be scarfed. I mentioned Starmie again with the potential for having Dazzling Gleam because I keep forgetting that certain mons have access to that move. Earlier in the season, I forgot that Lantern had access to Dazzling Gleam. So Starmie having Dazzling Gleam is like stuck in my head because I think that can counter Hydreigon pretty well. So we don't want to be super set up in its face, or start setting up, and then he can just bring in Starmie and Dazzling Gleam Oko us or something, and that has the potential to hit really hard, especially if he's running like a choice spec set on the Starmie. Alrighty, y'all. So, anyways, that kind of wraps up our talk here, our preview. We went into a little bit of my side thought processes as far as the season has gone so far. For more of that, if you haven't already checked out the TPL podcast, I definitely recommend it. It's going to be some good content. Hopefully I'll be able to hop on the next one or some of the ones this season. It's good content as far as figuring out what's going on in the league, how everyone's doing, and then the thoughts from some of the players. So I think if we can get 2 to 4 people, each couple weeks that we do an episode, that would be really cool. And you can kind of listen in and figure out what everyone's thinking and where everyone's feeling. And then getting an assessment for how everyone's doing in the league. So stay tuned for that stuff. But I thank y'all for watching, and hopefully here soon we'll have the game. I'm getting ready to play Mario here in a few minutes, and very, very excited. Always fun when it's time to play Mario. So hope y'all watch that too. Thanks.